investors, we often say you must treat your real estate investing like a business, and that includes having an amazing team, including a property manager. And I'm joined today by Arshad Rashid of Real Property Management Bravo in Calgary, a trusted partner. And we're going to be covering a lot of ground of how property management is in fact an investment, not an expense. Arshad, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Patrick. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Arshad, as I said into this intro, I look at property management as an investment in the asset, and I know it goes to the expense on your bottom line. But at the end of the day, when we look at property management, give me some insights into some of the things that you have conversations with, or some of the points that you would want to make in having investors consider property management and why they should consider property management as opposed to doing it themselves, or even to the extent, and I know this is a long question or a long comment, even to the point of what they should be looking for in a property management. Now, that's a lot of ground to cover, but let's take it on.
Well, to start off, I'd like people to start looking at property management, and people are, as an asset versus a liability, or as rather than an expense, have it there that it's an investment. So, and basically, a good property management company, their main goal will be to preserve and maintain the property so it stays a long-term asset as opposed to turning into a liability eventually, because all properties need to be maintained and have the proper mechanisms in place to maintain that asset long-term and not defer issues. The longer you defer issues, the more of a liability it turns into. So for us, we have that mindset, is to look at it that way. And really the goal is to preserve the asset so the landlord achieves the highest return on investment and the tenant achieves the best possible experience, which would turn into long-term tenancy, building that relationship. The longer of a tenancy you have, the less turnover you have, the easier and streamlined it'll be and less costly to the landlord/investor.
It's interesting from my perspective as well over the years is that we start to understand that a great tenant is like also an asset. When you have good tenants that pay on time, look after the property. And I'm just going to give you a quick example. Really recently, a property that I have for rent in Edmonton, I happened to be in Edmonton. A unit was vacant. I was kind of quasi selling it, but I might rent it out. And anyways, long story short, is I had run, because I had this particular property already in Rent Faster. I just fired up Rent Faster and went out there and said, okay, let's see what we get. And ultimately somebody approached me, sent me an email, said, I'd love to rent your unit. And so on the surface, he sent me the information, him and his significant other. It all looked so impressive. And I then met with them. They came and looked at the unit because I happened to be in Edmonton. Timing all worked out. But I do have a property manager, and I just happened to be in Edmonton and took it on. Anyways, long story short, I said, thanks, fill out the application. We had an online application, and I got no real bad vibes from him. There was a couple of little yellow flags, if you will, but nothing major. Oh my gosh. I sent it to my property manager, and I said, can you take this on, do your background check and then communicate with him. I'm going to pass you the puck. Well, I passed him the puck. He comes back to me like a few hours later. He goes, Patrick, are you kidding me? This guy is a train wreck. And anyways, long story short, there was nothing good about this tenant other than he appeared to be a really nice guy with his significant other. All of this is to say for me is that just that ability to really take a deep dive into somebody's background so that we know exactly the quality of that tenant. I can say from my experience that I know that less experienced landlords would have said yes to that guy in a heartbeat and would have blown up a month or two later. So I know that's a little bit of a long-winded story, but that's really the value. One of the many values of a property manager is your ability to screen tenants, which is such an important part of the process.
Absolutely. And to be honest, it's peeling back the onion. And everyone on at face value, when you're looking at an application coming in and you're looking at credentials, you're reading it, to the untrained eye, everybody puts their Sunday best on. And it's just like I compare it to an interview. When you're interviewing for staff or you're hiring somebody, you're gonna hear the things you want to hear. They're gonna have the best answers. They're prepared for that interview, and then later on, you can, once you hire them, you figure out, okay, who they really are. So if you don't do your due diligence, you're gonna experience that. They've got the best face right in the get go, and then what you need to do is have experience goes a long way. Somebody that's trained and has the tools to do a deep dive, look at their track record, look at their history, do some digging and some due diligence, and then find out. But a lot can go with, like, you can be a great landlord, and if you're not trained to look for the right red flags, you're going to fall into that same situation. So experience goes a long way. Sometimes you can have all the systems set up, all the forms to get filled in, these reference checks, but there's a lot is said about experience, your gut feel. You've seen it. We've seen. There's nothing that we haven't seen, I'd like to say, and there's always a first, right?
Yeah.
But there's things we've seen. So that gut feel, an experienced property manager can pick that up real quick. Then there's things that they can look at, little items, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to look a little deeper into this. So by doing that, you're safeguarding your sanity and your property as an asset, because a lot of people don't realize what goes into it. And it's not just the midnight calls, the running around. Anyone can be a great landlord, but the hassle of the back and forth, you don't have the right vendor set up, you don't have the right system set up, you're going to get bothered in the middle of the night when the furnace isn't working. A lot of these things are pain points for landlords, investors. Either they do a terrible job or they give up on it. But if you look at it as a business and you set up the right systems in place, like any entrepreneur, they start off by doing everything themselves. And as they get bigger or their business scales, you start hiring people to be able to delegate. Well, if you're looking at it as an investment and you're taking it serious as a business, your property manager is your asset in a sense where you've delegated all the pain points, the things you don't like doing, off to somebody else that is trained and does it every day, so they do it well. Mm-hmm. And then you're collecting the reward of getting that check on time every month.
Well, it's interesting is that what you just said, and you said a lot in that, but one of the things that I picked up that I want to shine a light on is around experience. I mean, you've been with Real Property Management for a long time. You've got your franchise or franchises in Calgary. You've got a number of doors under management, and then you have a team of people that support you in that. And a lot of that experience, it means that if you're looking for property management, you have to consider the things that you've done to grow your business and what you've done to grow that management portfolio in behind a lot of the things that you do in real estate overall. But the point is that you've got trained staff that have experience. You're licensed as a property manager, which is really important because some property managers, they kind of hang a shingle, but if you look and kind of look behind the scenes, maybe they don't have that experience. They're not licensed maybe necessarily the way they need to be. So it's all these things that have to be considered. And with Real Property Management, with the RPM, I guess, ecosystem, if you will, because you guys are national in scope, I mean, all of that comes with that kind of guarantee, if you will, of being the experts that you are. Anything you want to add in that, expand on that, Arshad?
Yeah, absolutely. Experience goes a long way. And for us, we're not just experienced in property management. We've been doing real estate for an even longer time. So our background experience just goes hand in hand and complements what we try to do for investors. There's power in numbers. There's, as much as we've got the boots on the ground experience, the power in numbers across the whole country. It gives you a little more buying power, gives you a little more access to better tools, better systems, better vendors, better software. All these items of service just go back to servicing the investor, so it's their investment is protected for a longer period of time, and we could probably do it at a better price than the average. That's the power of numbers. We are more affordable, and providing the tools that we provide that the average property manager that's not licensed or has this type of support in the background could provide. It wouldn't be feasible for them. So you'll find overnighters, or you find guys that are doing it. And if they're not licensed, that's a huge red flag. Just because in Alberta, you do have to be licensed, and there's certain protocols you got to meet. It keeps everybody honest, keeps everybody in check, and make sure that the consumer is at all times protected. So these are all the benefits of state with RPM and the franchise model and what we have here. And then at the end of the day, the biggest thing with the way we've got it set up is the right body in the right seat. So each one of our staff, contractors, employees all have a special skill set, and we help them rather than spread thin and do a lot of things. We let them double down on what they're good at and specialize. So we'll have a number of people in different seats to be able to cater to all the different aspects of every single property.
What you said something that's really, I think, important for people to understand. First off, I want to say that RPM's a trusted partner of the Real Estate Investment Network, just because not only are you national in scope, you guys are really professional at what you do. And here's the key. One of the things that we teach is about treating your real estate investing like a business, which means that when you surround yourself with a professional team and you need property management, what property management, aside from being an investment in terms of increasing your own profitability in your business, ultimately it removes a lot of pain points. I think you said something really important that people should not step over. You come with not only your team in terms of the staff that you have kind of in behind the scenes, but the access to contractors, the access to handyman, the deals that you're able to negotiate because of the volume of things you're doing. And it doesn't matter whether it's a hot water heater or a sink or a toilet. All of these are pain points. If you're a property manager and you're doing self-management, there are going to be times where you go, okay, I need to find somebody to, I don't know, rebuild a fence or to do some plumbing. And if you're not on a regular basis using those services, you're searching every time something happens. You're having to go looking for a new contact or reach out to somebody you haven't talked to for 8 months. Whereas you guys are talking to these guys every day. You have within your ecosystem, within your overarching team, access to all those things that are just a huge waste of time, energy, and money for somebody that is self-managing their real estate. I can't even count the number of times that I've been so happy to just pass that off to my property manager, go, you got this. Or they send me an email going, Patrick, on this particular property, what do you want to do? I go, handle that. Yes, that's within the budget. Got it. Go. And then I hang up the phone and I go back to doing what I love to do, not going, oh crap, who do I phone next? So I want to shine a light on that. I think it's such an important thing for people to understand is what is the best use of your time. And looking for a handyman that you haven't had to reach out to for 7 months is not the best use of your time, in my view. Anything you want to add to that, Arshad?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what you said, there's a lot there, but the main point is opportunity cost. You can spend your time doing those things, and it takes away from the joys of actual investment. There's a lot of fun in investment, and it's exciting. It's fulfilling in its own ways. It's wealth building. But then when you have to deal with all these little pain points that you mentioned, it takes all that joy and fun away. So pass that on to the experts that deal with it and dive in it every day and have solutions for those. And then going back to the vendors, we would do the same amount of due diligence on vendors as we would as a tenant. So we'd screen them. So there's a track record, there's accountability. And if they make a mistake, then it's our mistake. If you're, not talking to them every day and you don't have your ear to the ground and know what's happening in the industry, and you need a fence one day or you need a quote for something, yeah, the chances are you might land the wrong contractor.
Beautiful. Arshad, thanks for taking the time to kind of give us some insights into what you're about, what RPM is about. Folks, Real Property Management is a trusted partner of the Real Estate Investment Network. Arshad covers all of Calgary and beyond. Reach out, get in touch, have a conversation about how Arshad and his team can support you. And Arshad, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Patrick.